what do they say in the business? And we're back. Well, and we're back. And really appreciated Coach Petrino. That's a great program they have over there at Boise State. Encourage you to catch a game or five. You'll really enjoy it. They have a good time, and the fans are awesome. We're moving in. So that was kind of how to pull a team together. We're now moving into, what are some goals as we get a little older? What can we shoot for? What type of quality of life do we want to have? And as the coach talked about, how do we get clear about it? And so our next two guests work for some really awesome companies that can help us define a little bit and give us some thinking about how we can set ourselves up for some success as we age. So we've got our two folks. Rebecca Jackman is from the Cottages. The Cottages, by the way, has got a great reputation. There's great people. We always hear such great things. And so thank you for being with us. And Kimberly Ouwehand from Terrace Health. And Kimberly and I go back a ways.
We do.
And she's awesome. You'll find that out. You don't have to take my word for that. But what we'd first like to do maybe is hear a little bit more about the Cottages. You got 10 now?
Yeah.
In the valley?
Yeah, we do.
Oh my God.
Exciting. Yeah, absolutely. So we just acquired in July the old Regency Columbia Village location.
Oh yeah.
So we're working on that. So yeah, we have locations from Weiser to Mountain Home, and it's kind of exciting. Lots of good things going on for seniors in those communities. So yeah.
First of all, can I interrupt you there?
Sure.
I love the way, because I've been doing this for a long time.
Sure.
And people in the business haven't even done this. I love the way you said communities.
That's what they are.
Well, they are, but so many people like the term facilities.
Oh no, we say homes or communities.
Thank you.
And if you've been in our buildings,
I've been in your buildings.
Then they are definitely homes.
Yes.
They're small and they feel like grandma's house when you go there. Even our newest location, our Loxo Falls one, it still feels like grandma's house. It's like a new and improved grandma's house. It's beautiful. But yeah, for sure. And that's the goal, is we want people to feel like when they can't be in their own home, which I know is kind of the goal of this conference, is to help people figure that out. But for them to be able to feel like they're at home, to be able to, it is their home. And so we want it to feel like that. So that's something that we really focus on. It's important to us at the Cottages that it feels like home, and that people feel like they live there, and that when I do tours for people, I tell them, this is your room, but this is your home.
Oh, very good.
So you're out, watching TV in the living room with your friends or whatever. But yeah, for sure, that's really important for us.
Okay, now the reason I say that,
sure,
is because from our side, we get a lot from kids who their mother has made them promise they would never put them in a facility.
Yeah.
And then I have interacted with folks in your industry who've used the terminology facility, and the parents have reacted so strongly. And so I use community as the terminology, because it scares people so bad. I don't want to go into a facility. We'll talk about this in a minute. There comes a time when that's a real and maybe the best option. And so they shouldn't be afraid of it. So I love the way you set that up.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. The other thing that's really funny to me is that a lot of times people think older people have some idea in their mind about what it's going to look like.
Yes.
And then when they come, they're like, oh, this is really amazing. Like, oh, you guys do fun things. Oh, you have great food. Oh, there's all these fun friends here that I can interact with. So I think really that's the best thing about assisted living. Clearly, most of us want to stay at home. I'm going to be that way too. I love our buildings. I love the role that we play. I want to stay at home for as long as I can, but I know that not everybody can forever. And so that's when assisted living comes in. It's really the time and the model that is there for those people who need it at that time.
Hold that thought, because we're coming back to that. I want to expand on that just
Sure.
a little bit.
Sure. Okay.
So thank you. That was a great setup. But how long have you been at the Cottages now?
I've been there just over 3 years. Marketed healthcare for about 17 or so. I've been around for a little while, but I kind of teased my mom that the reason I got this job was that I did dishes I marketed to the Cottages. So Mark still laughs when he sees pictures and he's like, Becky, that was you were here. So anyway, but yeah, I really loved the Cottages for a lot of years, and I was so pleased when I was able to partner with them.
Very good. Very good. Kimberly, I've asked you this before.
Yes.
Explain what it is you do and who you do it for and why.
So with Terrace Health, and it's a company that has the full continuum of care for healthcare in the home. So it has home health, home care, hospice, and we've also brought on a transition to home.
Oh, very good. Very good.
So it kind of does it's the full continuum of healthcare in the home.
In conversations that I've had, I like to say that it's a decision. So that's by design versus by default. And the ability to stay in our homes is not a decision that we make by default, because the system doesn't back that decision for us. They will find that, oh, well, if you haven't made these decisions, then we're going to appoint a guardian for you. And then the guardian's going to go find a situation that's the easiest to manage. And if they're lucky, it will be with the Cottages. I'm not saying that there's a difference in quality out there. There is. But it could be that they're not as fortunate to be in the Cottages. Rather, this is a very intentional choice that starts before you're 94 or 84 or even 74. This has got to be clear back here, and we're very intentional about how we do this. So here's the setup. Are you ready? Here's the setup. If I want to stay in my home, I am not exactly sure what that looks like. So I'm thinking that if I went to an expert and said, well, tell me a little bit about quality of life in the Cottages.
Sure.
And then can I mimic that at home? What are the things I need to be paying attention to? And do I have to, like tomorrow, just go into assisted living, or are there alternatives if I've done my planning that maybe I could stay at home a little longer? Now, part of the setup is if they're in that 4,500 square foot home in the north end that was built in 1960, and they can't keep that up anymore, it's a big house, and they got to heat it, and they got to clean it, and they've got to maintain it. So that's not what I'm talking about. It may be another situation that's a little bit more friendly, but there's the socialization, there's activities, there's keeping it moving. And instead of sitting in front of the TV watching CNN 24 hours a day and that type of stuff. So I was hoping you could help us. I mean, you guys, you have a plan for this, and you execute this plan every day. We want this to be a high quality situation. So is that enough of a setup?
Yeah, I think so. I think that we really focus on first of all, basic needs. So we all know that if our basic needs aren't being met, then we're not going to be able to thrive. We want people to thrive. So it's not just about, it is about activities. We have great activities. We do such awesome, fun things. We had some of our folks from Middleton on a little zip line at a farm out there the other day. Our little
wait. On a zip line?
A little zip line, like the ones that they have.
Did you get a release from the families? I mean, the attorney's here going, are you kidding me?
The little thing that you sit on.
Yeah.
And they just got right on there, and the caregivers watched. It
was my mom would have done that. Dad would have done that too. Yeah. That's amazing.
So we do that. That's important.
Do you do the corn maze?
So yeah. It's like a whole mini corn maze in Middleton, and they did like flowers. They arranged flowers, and they did like, we do things that they're capable of doing. We want them to do it at their level. But I think
and families are invited.
Oh, absolutely.
To be with them.
We love families.
Yeah.
Absolutely. COVID just about killed us.
Oh.
Because we couldn't have families in, and that's an important part of what we do at the cottages. And so, yeah, for sure. So we have great activities, but everything starts with basic needs. So we need to make sure that they're fed, that they're clean, that all of those basic things are getting taken care of. And sometimes one of the things that was amazing to me was I took care of somebody in my home on hospice, and I didn't know how to transfer.
Yeah.
That was hard.
Oh, okay. Explain what you mean by transfer.
Oh, like moving somebody to get them up to go to the bathroom, they're laying down. And I was trying to get her up. This was my mother-in-law, trying to get her up and get her to the commode. And the CNAs, rock stars, like amazing rock stars. I mean, I learned so much, but we didn't know how to do that. And so that was a challenge, just those little things. And the cool thing about our communities is that we have caregivers who are trained. They do this all the time. They're brilliant. They know how to do it, and to take care of people. So they've got to be able to be clean and be safe and that kind of thing. And then obviously,
no, talk to us about the food.
Okay.
Don't jump so fast over the food.
Okay, the food's important. So one of the things. So I don't know. People may not be as familiar with our background, but our business was started by Gerald Maxfield, who's a local guy, and he and Lynetta were very big into home cooking. Like, so we don't cook from like packages. We cook from scratch. Like the girls and the boys that are there, the gentlemen, caregivers, they know how to cook. And so that's really important. Food is a big thing to people. It's a big thing to me. But it's also, when you're a senior, that doesn't change.
Mm-mm.
So definitely that they have adequate nutrition, but that it tastes good and they like it and it looks good. That's really important. Like just you and I, that's really important to us when we go out to a nice restaurant, right?
I have to throw in my mom's story.
Sure. Go ahead.
It was 2.5 years to help her make the decision. We did make the decision. It would have been easier for you. So it took us a long time. And we ran across a brand new place. This is down in Logan, Utah. We ran across a brand new place, and she said, well, let's go in there and look, because it wasn't on we had this figured out because we live up here. And we went in, and she loved it. She didn't tell us this. She did. We found out later. And she walked through, and they took her through the kitchen and talked about the meals and, and all that. And I didn't think much of it. I thought, well, that's great. Yeah. And right across the street is an over 55 community. So we packed up. I said, well, let's go look over here. She goes, okay. Do they feed you over here? Do they do the grocery shopping? And do they put the groceries away? And do they do the cooking? And do they handle the leftovers? Do they do that here? And I go, no, Mom, I like that other place better. And I think we jump over that, but that's a lot of work. And she would drive down to Walmart, and she'd park as close as she could. And we finally got her to use a cane, and anyhow, she'd do the grocery shopping, then she'd get it out to the car, and up the 12 concrete steps from the garage to the kitchen, you know, and then anyhow. So I'm sorry, had to stop on the food for a moment. But that's all taken care of.
It's all taken care of. Yeah.
And you have a particular menu, you pay attention to diet, you pay attention to needs. So my point is this, right? My point is this, is if you're going to stay at home, who's going to do that for you? And have you prepared to do that? You can, and that's great, but there's a lot of thought that goes into this. And I think we take that for granted.
Yeah. Yeah. Mom in similar place right now. So yeah, totally making some transitions and it's challenging.
It is. And
hard decisions on her part. And my heart is so with her. It's just a hard time. But not hard in a way. There's good opportunities, but it's change. And you know, we're going to experience that. So, but yeah, challenging times.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that everybody needs to move into assisted living at this point, or even independent living at this point, but to understand what a high quality life at home is, here's some things that we need to think about. And like you said, basic needs is number one.
Yeah.
And so that's why I stopped on food.
Yeah. It's important.
So important to me. What else? You talked about activities a little bit, but they're not always leaving the place, right? There's always something to do in your communities.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have quality of life coordinators at each of our locations. And that's their job. That's the title, because that's what they do. It might be doing trivia questions during lunch, or don't laugh, bingo. Everybody loves bingo. We do a lot of bingo. Everybody loves it.
The lady next to my mom at her place cheated at bingo. My mom made sure to let me know that she cheated at bingo.
Yeah. So, but all kinds of different things. I think our quality of life coordinators know every random holiday on the calendar that ever existed in any like sphere. And so they celebrate everything. And you know what? It's so fun. It's fun. And we see the pictures, we get the pictures at the home office, and we're like, man, our jobs are not nearly as fun as their job.
Well, I've also noticed that they come to love every single resident in the community. They get to know them and what makes them happy and not so much. And so that's awesome.
Yeah, we talk about the Cottages family. When we're talking about our residents, it's our Cottages family, our caregivers, and our residents. We think of them like family. And so, so it's like if your grandmother or your mother, Mark, were in there, what would you want? And then that's the way we try and treat our residents.
Very good. Anything else is kind of a general overview, because we're going to come back and drill in just a little bit. Anything else is an overview you want to talk about, whether it's the cottages, or, you know, a high quality situation like that. Is there anything else that we should be talking about? I liked with Mom, we had eyes on. Right.
Absolutely.
When she lived at home, all of us kids, there's 7 of us, going crazy.
Yes.
Because we didn't have eyes on, you know, and I know sometimes they don't think that's a big deal, but we found out that it was.
Yeah. And I've come from places where I worked in home health and hospice before, and we would have people who would have a fall, and nobody would know for a day or two or something, and it was just broke our hearts. So it was like, how can that be the case? And so yeah, just having presence there is so much peace in having presence, knowing that that there's somebody there that's just in most of our locations, it's small, so it's actually a call away, a verbal like voice call away, to say, hey, I need help. They have buttons they can push, but really we're so close that it just you know, it's just a little ways away. And that's important for people. It's important for families, and it's important for, as a resident, if I want to be safe, I need to know that if I need help, there's going to be somebody there.
Got it.
Super.
Yeah, I know that there are standards that are set that can come back to you if those are not met. With families, families. I have 6 siblings, and the 7 of us have, you're not going to believe this, our own opinion.
What?
That's enough that there's always some sort of a conflict, and we get along pretty well, but still there's always some sort of a conflict. How do you maintain those standards? Who does that for you?
So at each location, we have an administrator who is licensed. And so they have to go through some pretty rigorous testing. So they know all of those regulations. And at our level, at our home office level, then we also hold them accountable for those. And so the caregivers, though, really, when it comes down to it, the caregivers, we hire the right caregivers, and that takes care of a lot of the other issues. When it's somebody whose heart is there, it's in any healthcare and anything. When your heart is there, then it works out. But we also have very, very skilled administrators that know what to do and what's okay and what's not okay, and they kind of help us stay out of hot water with the state. And we want to. When we have the surveyors come in, we think of it like as an educational opportunity, and we look at it that way. Maybe something fridge didn't temp right. It's a little random thing, but then, okay, what can we do to fix that so that we make sure we're better the next time?
Got it.
So
very good.
Yeah.
I got a lot of questions, but let's get Kimberly involved in this. Now, also in assisted living is the assisted part of that are trained people that can help with a number of things. And doggone it, as we age, we're going to need help with those things. And so an option to being in assisted living is what? What are some options?
Well, you can live in your home for as long as you're safe and people are there to support you. It's amazing how many people are aging by themselves. It's amazing how people have not, I just read a report that 88% of people that are 50 or older have not really looked at their home to modify it in order for them to live in their home safely. And I think biggest issue with people living in alone is their family. And we worry when you leave somebody alone in their home, like who's going to be there for them if they do fall. A lot of times when we're transitioning somebody from a healthcare crisis, we look at it and they want to live in their home. Like that's their choice. They want to, and families are like, but a lot of times what we can do is we kind of have to let them safely fail at home in order to move them into the direction that they probably need to go. And then there's that transition into a facility. A community. Sorry. It's a community.
Did I convince you?
Oh, you didn't need to convince me. But then they see the benefit of it because they've kind of failed at home. Like you touched on it about meals. Like meals aren't, how do I get a meal? And Meals on Wheels is they can deliver, but sometimes they're not always what they really want. And there's other options out there. Many are growing, we got different companies coming out. So
we're going to hear from Simply Bites in a little bit. Yeah.
It's like it's a transition to when they need nutrition and they may need help with other things. But
mom was never a cook. She fed the family, but to feed herself, that was a different thing. She just didn't care that much.
It's too much work. right? Just I don't like to make. I like popcorn's great. Bowl of cereal's fine. I don't have to clean the dishes.
Sunday night, you're pouring the Cocoa Puffs into the bowl, and yeah.
So, but we just see that because we live in their homes, kind of, and then we know when we leave the acuity of if they're going to fall or if they aren't strong enough to actually get in and out of their chair that they normally have gotten in and out of their chair. They're no longer strong enough to do that, or they may are not strong enough to even get in and out of bed. So, home health is a therapy aspect of it. So if somebody can't leave their home, we go into their home and we do the training and the therapy to get them stronger so that they're able to get back to their normal scale of life. But what happens and we hear this over and over again, if there's a fall and somebody breaks something, what happens is as we age, unfortunately, our muscles deteriorate faster and we don't move as much. And you mentioned the fact that we end up, if we, don't want to move because we don't want to fall, so we sit in a chair and watch CNN forever, and then maybe get up and maybe go to the bathroom, but it's always kind of sketchy. But that lack of movement because they've fallen and they're scared or maybe not strong enough is kind of the beginning of a pivotal point where you need to start thinking about, okay, how am I going to age? And what is my quality of life? What is it that's important to me? And then maybe think about what's important to your family as well. Because I think I know as a child, knowing if my parents aren't safe, knowing that they are in an assisted living in a community that's surrounded by people that can help get them out of bed safely, even takes a lot of stress away from me. So I think there's a place, we're all going to age, unfortunately, but hopefully we age thinking ahead of the game than reacting to the game.
So we had Coach Petrino, assistant coach for the Lady Broncos, and he addressed that same issue of failing, right? He goes, we're going to fail. There's going to be failures. He said, that isn't the issue. The issue is, can we be there to then coach and help them and get them moving in the right direction? So I thought that was interesting when you say, we're just waiting.
Failing is just a part of learning too. I mean, nobody wants to fail, but if you can't live in your home safely, we transitioned a lady who really wanted to live in her home. It was recommended that she go to an assisted living, but she really didn't want to. She wanted to go home, but so we said, okay, we'll transition you home. It was 24-hour. It cost a lot of money to have her because she was a high acuity. She was pretty much bed bound because she was afraid to get out of bed. She wasn't strong enough to get out of bed, but we gave her a time limit of a week and a half, and she failed. She could not get out of bed, and she didn't want that quality of life for her. But at that point, she was able to say, I see now that I do need assistance. So we were able to get her actually at that time, we got her into skilled nursing because she needed a higher acuity of care. But then she saw how much she had to rehab in order to go home. Because lots of times when you're rehabbing from an accident or something, you think, oh, I can get back and I can get in and out of my chair and, all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, when you go back, you're like, wait a minute, I can't. But you don't realize that when you're surrounded by everything being perfect and done for you.
Yeah.
So she failed, but she's now, getting better and doing better and hopefully can get back to her home. But she needed to realize that it really wasn't safe for her to go home.
Coach also talked about those hard discussions where you're going to be told no, and you're at some point going to have to tell someone else no. And that was something that they worked with their team, their players on how to get to that conversation and to hear it. So what can we do? You've been with families. Is there a right, wrong way to have this conversation? I'm
sure you have these conversations too, where you're just like, right, what to do. But I think for on my side, when I'm dealing with people still in their homes, it's like you have to plant a seed and then repeat.
That's why it was 2.5 years for Mom.
You have to continue to kind of, recycle what you're saying. It helps sometimes to have somebody come in and just say, hey, Mom, let's just talk, or let's just go see this. And sometimes it's the stranger that says the same thing that you're saying, that's like, oh, well, this is what I wanted to do. Why didn't you tell me that? And I'm like, you're just like, it's like, it happens with your kids and your husbands and your wives. I mean, I've been saying that for years, and like, no, but John next door told me that I need to do this. And you're like, oh, but it works with families too. And you can keep telling them and until that right moment and that right person says the right thing at the right time, it doesn't click. I'm sure you've had many conversations like that. We've had
a few.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that one thing that's really important for kids of parents who are in that place, listen to them and respect them. There are times where you have to make decisions because it's a safety issue and it's not, they can't make their own decisions. But it's really important that we as kids listen to our parents and honor who they are and where they've come from. Like you were saying, it's taken 2.5 years because you listened and you were trying to help her come to the place where she needed, where she probably needed to be safe. But it was a process. It's the same thing like in my circumstance. We've been listening and ironically, my mom just like, we had that conversation on and on and on. And she said, well, I'm ready to move up there. And it was just out of the blue. And we were like, wait a minute, we're not sure we're ready.
Yeah. No.
Because we've been having, like Kim said, it has to be the right time. And because that worked out, now she's going to be in a safer place. So, and closer to us where we can help, where we can really help her. And so I agree. Everything that Kim said is spot on, but really, really listen to people and then just offer options. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to take away choice from anybody. Really? I mean, I don't want it to, it's worse if you have to have it be an emergent situation. And then it's like, we just got to do this. It's got to happen right now. And so it's so important. This advanced planning is so important.
100%.
Okay, so let me ask a hypothetical. And when you hear it, you'll go, oh yeah, that's a hypothetical. But if you were to draw this out, if we had a timeline and we're here and we're headed down the path, how would you design this decision-making path for a loved one? If they were at home, how would you help them to make this decision? I think at some point, assisted living is going to be on there. I just don't know very many of us that are going to get out, without needing that type of care. So how would you, what would you encourage people to think about?
I think anytime there's a health change or anything that's changing in your life is another time to reanalyze what you're.
Okay, so let's imagine somebody that's say maybe 64 and they're maybe going to be signing up for Medicare and all that. I won't tell you who that is. And so right now, you're with them right now. Talk to him.
Okay.
What does he need to hear? Well, she's going to back you up here in a second. We're going to then switch over.
I mean, when you're 65 and you're talking about insurance and Medicare, you definitely want, especially healthcare now, you want to know your Medicare Advantage, all your different options in Medicare.
Why?
Because each company, each Medicare Advantage has an advantage and a disadvantage. And depending on if you have a lot of medications, you may want a different plan compared to somebody who doesn't have a lot of medications, but has they're very particular about their doctors, because certain doctors are in certain plans.
Okay, and all of this discussion is because we want to do what?
Take care.
You want me to stay, or him,
yeah.
not me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Random man.
Just a random guy.
Access to all the healthcare needs that they need.
Because we want them to stay as healthy as possible, right? Okay. All right. So now we've worked through that. Let's say that we did that. We're talking later about how to pull together a team to help with this. I'm going to get into the weeds a lot, but pulling together a team. All right. So we got that worked out. We're doing okay health-wise, and maybe getting out and walking the dog and, eating okay and all right. But what are we looking for? What is it that's going to maybe get us off that path?
So I have parents right now that are aging, and we have lots of discussions like, Mom, what happens if you fall and you go into the hospital? What do you want your life to look like? I mean, and then you've got to worry about your dad, because your dad's going to be by himself and he doesn't know how to cook. Mom does the cooking. So you start having these conversations, and you start understanding that each person has a different need. So like my mom is social. She's going to need to be in a community that has lots of social, interaction. My dad does not like to be he's very quiet. He doesn't need to be in, he just wants his own space.
He doesn't need the socialization.
Yeah, he needs his own space, and possibly a place where he can look out, like he needs,
He's one of those guys.
One of those guys.
He likes to watch the sun come up,
exactly.
the sun go down.
Introspective.
Yeah, that's great.
He is not going to want anybody loud. He
doesn't need an activities director.
He does
I'm just telling you.
Not the rah-rah.
Well, and of course they say that.
Yeah.
And then you come back a few months later, and it's like, who's that guy? Yeah. I've seen this. I'm just saying.
You know what? It's true. He's going to be interested about food, though. That's so it may be his stomach that's going to, I don't know. You don't know, but yeah.
I love this conversation saying, okay, what do you see? What do you see? Because you can't help them come up with a plan until they have some clarity about what they see. And so I think that's great. And I think it's difficult.
It is. But it also gets them thinking a little bit more too, like what is important to me? I don't know what's important to me, and you can do it in a very light way,
Oh, yes. And I for us, sometimes it's the mom that's in tears because I don't want to talk about death, and I don't want to. Very often, though, it's the kids. Well, I can't think of mom that way.
For sure.
So it's really difficult.
Yeah, my mom and I have amazing talks. My dad passed away probably about 6 years ago, and that was kind of precipitated a lot of the things. He was in an emergent situation, ended up in a skilled building in Utah, and they were great. They did a great job. But he passed away there. We were trying to get him home at the time. Yeah. And then he passed away. So he had enough choice, and he did enough good planning that he had some choices that we could have taken him home, that we could have had some in-home caregivers. We could have had, at that point in time, he was hospice appropriate, unfortunately, but we could have had hospice come in. We just couldn't quite get him there, and it was okay. It worked out the way that it was meant to work out. It was good. But because of his planning, now my mom has had 5 or 6 years of independence, and she lives in this large house on about a third of an acre by herself right now. And so her needs are different now than they were when he first passed away. Yeah. But because of his choices throughout their life, she had choices.
She has flexibility.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we are so grateful for him. Oh my, wherever in heaven. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that, because now she has, she has these choices and she can decide what she wants to do. And she has a little bit of flexibility to do what she needs to do.
I think that's a really good point too, is like, because that, because when you start talking to your parents about stuff like that, are you taking care of yourself? Like, how are you going to afford to live in assisted living? How are you going to afford to have home care come into your home?
Correct, because that can be more expensive than being in assisted living. And that's our point, is great.
Sure.
We're not going to tell you which path, although sometimes I would like to. Just saying.
But you don't know what path to either sometimes.
And I understand that, but to be intentional about all of this, right?
Absolutely.
And to get on that path and understand, you know what? I want to stay home. That's going to cost money.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in assisted living, or I see that as an option for me. That's going to cost money. So all these things, the sooner you can plan, right? Best time to plant the tree was 20 years ago, and the second best is right now. And so oh my goodness, we're running out of time. So let me ask, let me see if I can move us along that path. Okay, so we're at home, we're doing okay, we have a health issue. And there's an unlimited number of health issues. I know that the falling and breaking a bone can drastically change the trajectory. Options that we may have at that point is we can bring somebody in, give us a little bit of help. How do we decide when that might not be the best option, and that, assisted living might be the better option? Is there a way that we can help coach somebody through that?
For me, because of the transition to home, we're able to go into and put eyes on the person. And if we're lucky, we can go and look at their house too, to see what kind of home they're going to be going into and the kind of support system they have. And often what we do is we come back and we say, because you are not strong enough yet to even get up out of bed, you really do need to go to a higher acuity of care. And maybe it's that soft talk of, let's go into an assisted living. We can help you kind of find the right person, the right place, and then they can go and get stronger there, or perhaps even just move there. But it's more of a soft transition, I think. But whenever there's a healthcare crisis, that's a pivotal point of knowing, like, when you're going to be able to go home, or if you're going to be able, if you really need to start looking at a community. And that just kind of starts the ball rolling, I think, in the right direction. And I'm sure when you do the assessments for people at their home or at the hospital or whatever, you can assess then, like, you could maybe go home, but most likely you'll need to go in assisted living.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a formal assessment process to see who's appropriate for our care. And we want to make sure that the folks that we take, we can provide good care for. Right. And assisted living is a middle place.
Yes.
Skilled nursing over here. And there are some people that we assess that need a higher level of care because they need therapy multiple times, during the week, and they need more than we can do providing or partnering with home health.
Right.
And so there are those people. And so I would say it's better to make the decision here when you have some more flexibility. And because if you get beyond our level of care, then you don't have a choice. You're going to have to go to that higher level of care, whether it's the hospital or a skilled nursing. And nothing is bad. Everything's good, but it's where you are and what you need at that point in time. So it's better. Kim's going to laugh about this. The earlier you make that decision when you're not going to succeed at home, then the better it's going to be for you. Because we can take somebody in assisted living who needs a little bit of help getting up out of bed or getting, around or whatever. But if it's a 2-person transfer, the state doesn't let us
Jumped
do
over.
that. Yeah, then we're done.
Yeah, we've jumped over that.
Yeah.
2 thoughts. I think it's really worthwhile to go visit a few.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
The cottages are.
Well, I grew up and mom would take us to the local, home, and it was horrible. I mean, for a kid, it was just the tile floors and the smell, and oh my gosh, it was just so I understand why mom pulls kids aside. You will never put me in one of those.
Yeah.
And we'd go sing for them and all that, and just those don't exist. Well, at least I don't think so. I don't believe I've been in one of those. It's since I was a kid. So that I think is huge to go visit. And we did one thing with mom as she was making this decision of where to be and all that. We bought her a week at this place where she ended up being. And you know what? She realized that was okay. That it may be where she realized at some point that's where she needed to be.
Sure.
But I think it was after she was there. I don't know that she thought that when she moved in, but it wasn't long before she realized, I need to be here. And she was more at peace. The kids, whoa, like you said, it just, And then for her, it was, I think, awesome. She felt, that she was safe. She had eyes on, somebody was there, and we kids could come and be kids. Yes. We could come and be, she could love on us and she could do all this, and we weren't caregivers. She had people, of course, she adopted every single one of them, and they became kids to her, but we could come and that was huge. And so I'm a strong proponent of getting out, visiting a few places, go have meals. I have a story about that one too. Go and have a meal with them. Go have an activity with them. Meet some folks, sit down and you never know who you're going to run into. And then I know that you can probably do this. I'll bet someone could buy a week.
Absolutely. Yeah, we actually have respite stays.
Oh, and that's a great one.
Anyway, and it's not necessarily, doesn't have to be, but we also do daycare.
Oh, there's a good one.
And so if somebody just wants to come and try it out and see if it might be a good fit, then they can come and hang out during the day with us. And absolutely. So we have a lot of opportunities for people to try. Yeah. When you're making a decision, I want to have choices. I know other people want to have choices too.
Yeah.
And they need to know what it looks like before they go there.
Well, and again, I think that's part of the clarity, trying to get clear on how this all looks. These are options for them to go look at and say, oh, well, this is possible. I could do this. And before that, they were just going to die at age 95 or at some point, right?
Yeah.
In their sleep.
Or my kids are going to take care of me.
Oh, yeah.
They're just going to take care of me, which is great. And we all want to do that. As kids, we all want to do that. Because
but there comes a time
we can't.
I do what I do.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
I don't know all that other stuff. That 2-person lift, that got beyond us.
Taking a shower or a bath and like the toileting and things like that is uncomfortable sometimes for everybody.
Right.
You don't want.
Yep. No. Yeah. I understand. Very good. Well, listen, thank you for being with us. I know we could do this for another couple hours, and maybe we will on a podcast. If you're up for it, we'll pick this discussion up. There's so much more we could add to this, but thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And always appreciate the support we get from you. And we love getting feedback that you're doing such a wonderful job for the people in our community that need it.
Thank you.
So thank you.